here for another episode of Smoking Section Podcast. We have here TikTok sensation. I don't know if that's what we should call you.
I'll take it.
You take it. We'll take it. We'll call you a TikTok sensation. TikTok sensation. I was doing some research on you today because we have a mutual friend or anything like that. But 22 million streams on the song called "My Person."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's just on Spotify. I don't know the numbers on Apple Music, but that's just on Spotify. That's amazing without a record label. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you listening, this is the one, the only Spencer Crandall.
What's up, man?
How are you, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Typically, we do this in person, but obviously with everything going on with COVID and everything, we're going to pretty much keep things rolling in Zoom.
I think that's unfortunately the wise decision, which sucks, and I hate it.
I know.
That again, but here we are.
I know. So we'll definitely do it again when we can get in person. We can have a stogie together, have some drinks together. Yeah. I think we've met one time in person. I think it was at Lydia's birthday party.
Yeah.
That's the only time we've met in person. But we have a lot of mutual friends. Ashley Cook, dear friend of mine. So we're working on getting her. You just announced a whole tour with her.
I know. I'm so pumped, man. She's like the perfect. I couldn't ask for anyone better to come on this tour with us. It's gonna be so fun.
I'm excited. Is it going to be mainly in Cali, like West Coast?
We have West Coast dates. We have like LA and I think like Sacramento, but it's really all over. I'm on tour with Kid G. I'm opening up for Kid G in the fall, and then we're doing our own headlining stuff. And so we kind of just put all that together, something like 24 dates in the fall as the My Person tour, and just kind of rolling with it. So I'll be New York to LA, kind of every weekend from September like 18th till Christmas on the road. So quite the
wow. So also let me know when you do a Nashville show. I mean, I think I already have you doing one of my rounds. I believe we discussed a little bit. Yeah. That's an announcement coming later on. I promise, guys. Just ironing out the details of things. Yeah, let me know when you have a Nashville show, and I'll definitely come out and check it out and see, especially with you and Ashley Cook. I just love Ashley. Ashley's just one of those. She's one of the best. She's one of the hardest working artists in town.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge reason why I wanted her on the tour is, it's one thing to have great music, which she does. It's another thing to be a great human being, which she is. But it's really cool to have somebody who is going to fight to get human beings to come. And that's like a really cool thing. Is just to have somebody as hardworking as she is. So she's the full package. She's a superstar. I keep saying my goal is that we are hosting the CMAs here in 10 years together and taking over the world and stuff. It'll be fun.
That's after my goal of hosting the CMAs. That's what's going to happen.
Here's the deal. We can all three do it together.
We can. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with sharing. We can be the first Oreo on CMAs.
The Oreo hosting trio. I got it for the 10th year in a row.
I'll be quite all right with that. That's not a problem. I can see the headlines already in Music Row magazine.
Hey, I'm down for it. As long as it'll probably be you and Ashley, and as long as I can at least present something or whatever, then I'm happy to be involved.
It'll be me and Ashley and you guys nominated for awards.
There you go.
There we go. We'll make it selfish. I'll be the host and you guys nominated for the awards.
There you go.
The male and female vocalist of the year goes to. Doesn't that sound good? That sounds really good. So let's talk because we're going to talk about life here. We're going to talk about everything between the sun and the moon. So I wanted to get to know you. So my thing is, I know you were born in Colorado. You were raised in Colorado. What was it like growing up in Colorado? Because I know nothing about Colorado, obviously, besides the fact that you can get really high in Colorado.
Famous for the weed. I grew up just outside a lot. I feel like I don't have a ton of memories like I never had a TV in my room. That's like an interesting thing about my family is there's one TV in the house. So you would go, like if you wanted to watch TV, you had to figure it out with your siblings. You got to fight for the same show or whatever. But it was either that or we're outside all the time. I mean, my parents, one of like my favorite things they did growing up, just a good example of growing up in Colorado. It's a Friday and my dad would just like come in and take all three of us out of school. My little sister's probably too young to even be in school at the time. And we just go up early so we could go camping. And we just take like a half day on a Friday in like that early summer, kind of, or even like back to school September area. And we just go fish and we go hike and we'd, in the winter we're snowboarding and skiing. And that was our life, man. Just up in the mountains constantly, outside, hanging out with friends. I played a lot of sports growing up, so that was really fun. And I couldn't have asked for a better, small town USA experience than Ranch, Colorado.
What sports did you play? Did you golf? Am I hearing that correctly? Did you golf?
I play golf now, but I've only been playing like a year, so I suck. I don't know if I could say that I play golf. I participate in golf.
You participate in drinking golf.
Yeah, I show up and I have a great time. I'll hit in the 90s every once in a while. It makes me pretty happy, but usually I'm hitting a couple snowmen, a couple eights that just take me out.
So basically, you should do your next TikTok video should be you doing the whack and the fuck game. It's playing a game of whack and the fuck.
So many people have sent me that I play golf with, which is the biggest insult of all time, but it's so true. I actually have a TikTok up that's just me driving the ball, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, in the moment, just like, how does that even happen? It went straight up to the moon, like 12 yards, just 100 yards up and then 12 yards down in front of the ladies' tees, and just took all my pride with me on that one.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. So what kind of sports did you play in growing up?
Yeah, I was really big into football. Football was like my baby. So that's what I got a little scholarship to play in college. So football was my number one, but I did everything as a little kid: baseball, basketball, football, tennis, soccer. Just loved being outside. That's like what my friends did. And so I was like, all right, that's what people do. So we just played sports.
What position you play in football?
I was a defensive lineman. I was like a nose guard. This is like 65 pounds ago. I was a nose guard. Like I used to take up this whole screen. Just I was a big boy. And now I just came from the chiropractor, and they're cranking on my hips and my back and stuff. So I'm paying the price. For sure.
Yeah, I play. I'm paying the price now too, because I play football and I play defensive lineman.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of wear and tear.
Dude, I don't even.
I played in middle school. I didn't even play in high school. I played in middle school because I decided I'm not getting hit no more. I'm done with this. Like no, and then it was just like oh, I'm feeling it.
Kills me, man. If I could go back, like I wouldn't change anything, but there's always a part of me that's like, if I could go back and just tell young Spencer, like, dude, go play golf, go play tennis. Your body will thank you. You'll be a little bit thinner, which would be great. And you'll just come out of college with no shoulder surgeries. You'll never break your hip, hand, ankle, collarbone, tear. Like my list of injuries is so gross and so long. And it's all because of these contact sports that I felt like I had to prove myself in. And obviously a huge part of who I am today. So I would never take it back. But it's just interesting. Like, I don't know if like I would let my kids play the sports that I played. Like I wrestled too, which was just wild. That I'd actually probably let them wrestle before I let them play tackle football. But
I mean, wrestling is a little safer.
Correct.
It's a little safer. Then you might end up with some cauliflower ears. It's
I got a little bit right here.
Yeah, it happens a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, kids. Maybe it's best for you to unicycle instead of.
Yo, check this out.
Yeah. Let's see this because I've heard some stories about this.
I have my unicycle right here, but it is currently not functional because this thing isn't like tight enough. But yeah, so as a kid, here's the weird life that I lived as a child. By the way, it's a podcast, so if you're listening, I just showed.
Oh, we'll show a video. Don't worry, we'll show the video.
Well, listening in the car on the treadmill, just showed Marcus my unicycle in my back room because I'm an odd human being and I have a unicycle. But as a kid, I wasn't great at sports, but it's like what I did, right? So I was always the class clown who like played sports because that's what my friends did. But I literally, my first paying job as a human being was as a birthday party clown. I could juggle, I could ride a unicycle, I painted faces. We did these little like sketches. I was an odd kid, and I loved entertaining from a very young age. I was like SNL, Saturday Night Live. I was into like a lot of comedy stuff. So I always felt very Troy Bolton-y, the High School Musical guy. I always felt like I was the captain of the football team, but on my way home, I was listening to like wicked show tunes, or like, like I had this interesting juxtaposition in my brain where I loved the entertainment industry, but I loved athletics, which was really interesting.
I mean, they kind of go hand in hand because you have to have the teamwork. The team, both things are driven by teamwork, so you have to have the teamwork. That's that teamwork mentality and that discipline to be in the music industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of times now where I'll be talking to my friends and like, dude, I feel like all you do is work, or you're putting in a lot of hours on TikTok or whatever. And for me, it's not super far off from what I've always done. It's like there's always some hell week. There's always some crazy thing that you're pushing yourself, some PR in the gym. And so I really enjoy putting in the work and like seeing the results. And I think that the way that transpires in music comes from football, comes from wrestling. The hard work and the work ethic that I kind of developed there has really paid dividends over my career. And I'm really happy that, I have those things in my life. So now I'm going back and now I'm stopping me from stopping me. So that's the weird part of growing up.
That's the weird part of growing up, So let's fast forward here. So let's fast forward to you moving to Nashville, and you becoming this TikTok sensation, as I said at the beginning. It's better than being called a TikToker. I hate the term TikToker. It just doesn't sound right to me.
I don't love it.
TikTok sensation is more pleasant. So let's talk about this. So what first of all, what made you start? Because obviously we were in the middle of a pandemic when you went viral.
Yeah.
There was no shows, there was nothing like that. So was it I wouldn't use the word boredom, but was it like a little bit of like not being able to go out? So this is I'm going to show everybody who I am.
It's interesting, and I totally get that. I think that's what a lot of people. I think that's what it was for a lot of people. For me, actually, it was an ideology that I really had held for a long time, and the market weirdly crashed into what I already believed in, which is this like. I really believe, I bet pretty heavily on the internet. And I think a lot of people still underestimate the power of these apps and what they can do and how they can change your life. So I was on early Instagram, I was on early Twitter and Facebook doing covers, doing little bits and stuff. And I watched Vine come and go when I was in high school. And I was always like, man, I feel like I could have done that, but I was a little self-conscious. I didn't really sing at that time. And so TikTok, actually I started TikTok probably like the summer, so like summer 2019, like in August. I remember I came back from this camping trip and I posted a video with my little sister of us singing Hallelujah or something. She was playing the ukulele. And it got watched, at the time I was getting like 1,000 views, and it got watched like 100,000 times. And I watched my numbers like actually move. Like my followers, my like Spotify streams and stuff like actually took a jump after this video. And I was like, man, I think there's something here. And so I remember being in my manager's kitchen. I was like, I have this theory, and I think I'm going to post like at least 3 videos a day for a year. And I think if I do that, I would have like something like 1 million followers. And that's exactly what happened. I got really aggressive, specifically posting things about original music. I didn't want to be, necessarily like a cover guy, although it's nice to switch it up every once in a while. But I had, 2 albums and was working on a 3rd album. So I had so much music already that I really just created videos with these songs that were already out. And I would say, hey, do you like country music? Are you going through a breakup? I would just create these hooks and basically run through all the songs that I had, run through the new stuff that I was working on. So I had started to figure out TikTok right along the pandemic happened, and I put out a song called My Person that really changed my life. So all that together, it was this perfect storm of I really bet on the internet. I had a song that was responding where it felt like every time I posted about it, something good would happen. And then the world shut down. So like it was already happening really well. And obviously never a good time for a global pandemic. But it worked out for your boy because I was sitting at home as everyone was sitting at home. And I think we all were just sitting on this app. It's such a unique time in history, right? For everyone to be like watching this one thing. So I just got really aggressive. I think a lot of people took some time off in the pandemic, and I did the opposite. I finished this album that I put out last year called Wilderness with my producer. We quarantined together, and I made a ton of videos. I mean, thousands of videos of like all the music I had out, all the music I was about to put out, covers, mashups, trends, and just studying the app. And I really got aggressive at it. And then over that time period, like I think I had, I want to say like maybe 20 million total streams as an artist before TikTok. And I think I just hit like 115 million total, which that to me is like the power of the internet. And it's without a record label. That's without opening for massive people on tours. And that is just going straight to consumer, which is the internet. So that's a long way to say I really believe in the internet.
So, but here's my question on that, because I've talked to a lot of artists and you know, obviously artists who already have deals and things like that, and the baby artists. But the question that they have, and the question that I always have is, how do you, because some artists it doesn't always work that way. So how do you get those numbers to transcend from TikTok to streaming numbers? Because sometimes artists can go on TikTok and do what you do, but the number still on streaming doesn't always work.
Yeah, it doesn't translate, or they have like 3 million followers. That's like why a lot of the stuff I've done has really been original music. Because I didn't want to have a fan base of, I watched this a lot on early YouTube. There'd be these people and they'd have these like 100 million views on these covers or mashups. And you go to their Spotify and they'd have like 20,000 monthly listeners, and that never added up to me. And it's because the music was adding a ton of value in people's life, but their story as an artist wasn't. And so I really try hard to connect the threads, and a lot of that's original music. So like a song like My Person is just, there's some sort of equation that runs in people's minds, and that song tips the scale to go, I have to go check this guy out. And so there has to be this, this value added in people's life where it's not like, oh, that's good. It's that next level. It's like, oh, wow, I have to go download this song. I have to send this to my fiance. I have to use this as my first dance, whatever it is. You know, a breakup song can be that way too. I think that's what Driver's License was. We've all felt that in our lives. So I think part of it's like the product, like the music. And then I think part of it is, I don't think people, and I don't even think I really understand how much quantity matters. Like really, I'm pulling lottery tickets at the end of the day. What I think is a good video, like everything I post, I think is a good video. But
right.
The market doesn't always agree with me. And I think a lot of people stop when they have 10 bad videos in a row. But what I did was say, I don't care how they're doing. I'm just going to keep my head down and grab data points and pull lottery tickets. So I'm gathering all this data as I move forward. Like, okay, this works, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And then every video I post is just a little lottery ticket. I remember I posted a video close to a year ago, maybe a little bit more. And it was like the first thing for me that really went viral. I never had a viral video in my career. And it was a one take video I did of this thing called the Lay Me Down Challenge, where you start really low, you sing really high, to the bridge of Lay Me Down by Sam Smith. I spent 2 hours on an Ed Sheeran mashup before that, put all this hard work into it, posted it, was like, this is gonna go nuts. I'm so excited. It got like 10,000 views total, which for me isn't great. This other thing that was a one take thing I did before I went to bed with like a ring light really quick, just holding my phone, got watched 7 million times in like 24 hours. So what I think is good or cool isn't necessarily what the market thinks is cool. It's more about creating things that I love and then putting them out in pretty mass quantities. So I think for me, it is being less romantic about like what I think is cool, just making a bunch of stuff that I think is cool and then letting the market tell me what's cool and then doubling down on that stuff. So being pretty reactionary to what the market's telling me. Then part of it's luck. Like really, sometimes you just get a video that pops off and I can't tell you why. I didn't do anything different. I made the same video last week, but I was wearing a yellow hat instead of a black hat. And it's just, that's it, man. It's hard to tell. Also, some of these artists, it could be the slightest tweak. Like the question was, why does it translate for me and maybe not for some other people, or why has it translated for me? Like small tweaks in branding or like the hook even, or your story can be really important. So like for some of the My Person stuff, I was talking about how it was a song that I really believed in and it wasn't doing really well because it was like, I want this song to blow up. I want this song to do well for me. But when I switched it to, hey, this song might do something for you. Maybe this is your first dance. Maybe you love songs. Maybe you love country music. And I started to treat it like something that I'm giving to them instead of asking. That was a really big flip for me. I think that really changed a lot on the app.
Wow. That's I've always wondered that, and I think you're right, because I think it's something with the branding. It's something with, it could be like a something that's very small or minute that they're probably not even thinking enough as to why it's worked for you and it hasn't worked for anyone. It worked for a couple of people, and that's understandable. I mean, so my next question here is you have 22 million streams. We talked about the streams, we talked about the numbers, because it's outrageous of the numbers that you have. And reason why I see outrageous is because of the fact that you have no record deal. I know for a fact, and there's been rumblings in this town. It's not because you have not been offered deals. It is because you have turned down deals.
Yeah, that's a part of the story for sure.
So my question is, why don't you have a deal? Is it that you don't want a deal? Is it that you just want the perfect deal and it just hasn't been approached, is offered to you yet? Like, what's the deal behind that? Come on, explain this to me.
Sure. I usually equate it to like when you see someone that you love and you're like, why aren't you in a relationship? Why aren't you married? We all have that friend. You're like, maybe they're a little older and you're like, it seems crazy to me that you've never found that or whatever. And I think for some people, it's just the right fit, that right feeling hasn't come along. And it's not that, I didn't set out to be like the Macklemore of country music or the Chance the Rapper of country music,
right.
Go label list. That wasn't the plan. But I think I really believe in what I'm doing. And I think I'm not waiting for anyone to pick me up on the Star bus and drop me off on Star Mountain. I think a lot of people, they come to town and they almost hold themselves back because they're expecting someone to come along and help them. And then they think that things will get started. I've always felt the opposite, where like, instead of trying to push a boulder up a hill, I'd rather it be, hey, everyone that I want to work with, I'm a fast moving train. I just want to get moving faster. That's a lot easier premise to buy into. And so, me and my manager have this conversation all the time. Like, why hasn't so-and-so come along and asked, or why? Like, we don't know. We think the numbers are great. We think the music's great. We think our show is great. All the things that I can control, I feel really proud of. I think at the end of the day, it's really out of my control. So I don't worry about it a ton. I think I really try to like build the story. The word I'm always looking for is undeniable. Like, how can I make the music, the numbers, the fans, the show, just undeniable, where it doesn't matter. Even if I'm not for you, you're like, look, I don't like it, but I get it. Like, that's the kind of next level thing I'm going for. And a record label is going to be awesome. I think that's a great next step for me and my team. And, but it's not something that like keeps me up at night. And it's not necessarily, I think, what it used to be, where you had to have it to get on Sirius XM, to get on these Spotify playlists. Like, I've been able to do that independently. So now from a record label, I think an honest part of this answer is I think I accidentally skipped the development deal. I think a lot of people are trying to sign really young artists at a very early stage, and not to tell them who they are, but to be a part of that. I think I really did that by myself with me and my manager. So now we're looking for kind of a different deal, which is this.
You're looking for the main. You're looking for the main deal.
Yeah, I'm looking for a real radio push, real tour support, a real capital injection. If we're being honest, like, you know, small money, small support, small those things. Like, although they're great, I'm able to accomplish some of those things on my own. So what I'm looking for now is that, like you said, the big deal, the main deal, and it's not in my control. So I really try not to worry about it.
You don't have to answer this because I don't want you to get you in trouble with it. But do you have the perfect label in mind already?
No, because I think it really doesn't, like, any of the labels could come to me with a great deal. It's more about a person or a team of people, because at the end of the day, like, I think that my work ethic and what I'm able to do by myself is going to be the differentiator. So all these people are just multipliers. Like, if you're doing nothing, you could have the best team in the world. 0 times infinity is still 0. But I'm looking for people that I really believe in and people that really get what I'm doing. I think I'm not trying to be everyone else, especially in country music. So that's a big part of that. So it's just finding champions, people who really believe in it. The more I do this, it's like, who do you really want to spend time with? Like, these people are going to be on flights with you and early mornings. And, so just finding good people, making it feel more like a marriage, not like this, bad relationship that you're stuck
in. Because that's really what it is. It's a marriage. I mean, it's just that people don't realize that that a lot of these people who go and get deals, they have been courting this label, and that label has been courting them for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years before they actually got signed. I know at one point, Big Machine was when they first opened, wanted to sign Zach Brown. Before Zach Brown went over, I think he went over to Warner at one point. But he didn't have the money behind it. So he just, to get behind it, all he had was the money to get behind Taylor.
Right.
So it was like, but then later on now, and I think now, after 10 years of courting, 15 years of courting, now they're married. That's a long time to court somebody.
It's a long time to court. The good news is I feel very patient. I don't feel like this massive pull either way. As long as things are moving forward, I feel like I'm in a good spot. So I have some fun things happening, a bunch of fun stuff coming up. And, I always tell this to my manager too, like, people aren't dumb. It's not like they don't know what we're doing. Like, everybody gets the research, everybody gets the emails, somebody's waiting for some sort of magical number or song or combination of those things. I can't know what that is. So again, I can only chase undeniable and things I can control. And then, the right person's going to come along. It's the same thing with dating. The more that you're looking for somebody and you're like, okay, I'm going to go on all these dates and blah, blah, blah. It's like, or you could be the best version of yourself, and that's going to attract the best version of what you want. So I find the same ideology stays pretty true in music, or I hope so, at least.
No, it does. I think it does. When you start being yourself, I've noticed that when you start being yourself, you start growing as an artist, and people start, becoming a big star. Jimmy Allen always says, it's always gives his advice to young and up and coming artists. It always says, just be yourself, because you're you for a reason. There's no one, no one else like you. You're very unique. So let's talk about, because I'm looking here and you have a lot of albums. You have some albums out here. You got some EPs out here. So let's talk about your mindset. Let's talk about your creative mindset. Okay. An alum of the show is my good friend, Julia Cole.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the song, Things I Can't Say. So what would y'all, because you both wrote it together. Okay. Did y'all go in thinking that you guys were going to be writing this duet?
No, super just normal day of writing. And we were actually talking about Julia's boyfriend, and it was kind of this new thing for her. And I was asking her, like, I was like, spill the tea. Like, what's going on? And she's like, I'm feeling a lot of stuff and it's pretty early. And we all started to talk about our experience of that. Like, oh my gosh, that feeling of like, am I already feeling like I'm in love? Is that way too early? Like all this stuff. And so I think we found that first line, like, I love you's on the tip of my tongue and I want you to want me to be the one. We're like, ooh, that's cool. And we had this cool melody. Josh Ronan had made this really cool track. We got done with verse 1 and 2, and I think we had written it kind of like in my voice and style. And immediately I was like, what's cool about this song though is if a female comes in second verse and starts saying her part of it, it's this really cool where like two people are trying to say the same thing, but they're like missing each other. And that's such a real thing, especially early on in love, where like you don't want to be the first, but you want to tell them. And it's really funny when like two people feel the same thing, but you don't even know it. So that was the premise of the song, and it's done so well. I think another like just so many TikToks changing my life, and that was one of them. Like, just keeps blowing up on TikTok. It was our first song, both Julie and I, on the Hot Country playlist on Spotify, which is, for those of you who don't know, is like a pretty big deal. It's the largest country Spotify playlist in the world, and that was a big moment for us. And I think it's been a life-changing song. It's been amazing, and Julie is so talented, and I wouldn't want anybody else on the song. So it's fun to make music with your friends and make music that you love with your friends.
So what was your mindset behind creating that whole entire EP?
Yeah, so actually, it's a part of an EP, which is a part of an album. And so the album's called Wilderness, which is made up of 4 different EPs: North, East, West, South. North is about identity, East is about love, West is about heartbreak, and South is about summertime nostalgia. And so I wanted to create these mood EPs that wrapped up into an album. So it has intros, outros, interludes, think like Drake, JT, Eminem, Taylor Swift, some of these people who've done some of that cool stuff in the past, John Bellion. And so that song is on the East EP because the sun rises in the East. Like there's a lot of these natural connotations with love and like the East. So I loved that kind of like story. And so the first song's about how like I wasn't really looking for love, but here it is. Things I can't say is like, oh man, I think I'm in love. And then the last song on the EP is My Person. So it's this kind of growing love sensation, which I think you really go through when you find your person. Is this like, I wasn't even looking, this person kind of came along, and then, oh my God, I think I love them. And like, wow, I think I really found it. So yeah, that's all on the East EP, which is really fun.
So here's my question. Like, how much does your manager love you? Because you are literally one of the most detailed artists I've ever met.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's a high compliment because I try really hard to be really intentional about the choices that I make, so that my fans and the people who love and support me, that I'm adding a ton of value in their life. Because again, I think that's how we build this thing together. So I luckily actually have a manager who is far more detail oriented than I am. And he is incredible and such a great, I can't imagine doing music without Jeff. So Jeff Cherry is the man. And I think what I'm really good at is coming up with really big, cool ideas. What Jeff is really good at is like, he's like a computer. I put in the ideas to Jeff and out comes a receipt that is like, cool, to get to point Z, we need to do A, B, C, D, with all the dates, with all the money, with all the, so that's, as an independent artist, it's so priceless to me to have somebody like Jeff on my team. It's awesome.
So when did you meet Jeff?
Here's just a weird story. So hang on to your.
Oh boy.
So I'm in college. I go to play college football. I get 2 shoulder surgeries. I stop playing college football. And I'm bored in my dorm room. I pick up a guitar. I start learning chords. I start learning songs. That's how I find music, right? I record a little project that doesn't exist anymore because it sucked. But it was my first like attempt at making music, right? So I started asking myself some questions. I'm like, okay, I think I need music, obviously. I think I need, like fans or people to enjoy that music. And I think I need help. So I think I need a manager. So my mom, being a great mom that she is, reaches out to this person that books speakers, my mom books speakers for her church. She reaches out to a lady named Darlene. Darlene's son is the youth pastor at Jeff's parents' church. This is real. Now, meanwhile, I'm making music. Jeff is helping his buddy, Jefferson Bethke, who's now a New York Times bestselling author. He had a viral moment. Jeff ends up managing him, learning a ton. So Darlene hears from my mom, I'm looking for a manager. Darlene goes, I don't manage, but this young kid out of Seattle, while I'm in Denver, Jeff is in Seattle. Jeff is learning a lot. It seems like he's really interested in new projects. Let's send him the music and see what happens. So we sent him a really bad EP, but he heard it and was like, if these are the first 5 songs Spencer has written, let's do it. So he had no experience in the music industry. I had no experience in the music industry, and we just jumped in. So we started taking trips to Nashville January 2016 and went every month for like 8 months until I moved. And then he moved shortly after. And it's been almost 7 years. That's, you know, for a lot of people, this feels like overnight or like in the last year of my life that, you know, this has kind of come together, which has been great. And it, you know, what a year it's been. But it's been 7 years in the making, you know, Jeff and I grinding and making a lot of mistakes and trial and error, trial by fire. So that's how I met Jeff. He's the man.
That's crazy that you said that. I'm glad I asked that question because of the fact that I have this constant battle with some artists who they always say, well, I need a big manager. I need a big manager. I need this manager who's successful already. I think I'll be great on their roster. And I always tell them, no, you don't. You just need someone who believes in you.
100%.
Because at the end of the day, and this is going to be kind of come off as me as a dick, but it's kind of true. At the end of the day, a manager works for the artist as far as it's their job. The artist is paying this manager to help make their dreams come true. It's what, like you said, you're paying them. It's like you went to Apple and bought yourself an iMac.
Yeah.
That lasts about 20 years. You put all this stuff in, and what's going to come out is the receipt for all the shit that you need, that you want to do to get to your dreams.
Yeah.
That's what your manager is there for, and to believe in you and push you, not just because you need some big manager. The fact that you've gotten to where you've gotten, now that I realize this, you've gotten where you've gotten with no label and a manager who had no experience in the music industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I mean,
that's
really
crazy.
Tried. I think a lot of people are afraid of failure. And I think if I can share anything today that is of value, I think it is to disrespect failure, because it really is the only way to move forward. I know it's scary, but like I had so many songs come out before the Wilderness album that didn't do well. And that feeling that I felt from it not doing well is why my songs do well now. Is because it's like, I always use this analogy. If your parents ground you, like when you're a kid, and they go, look, I have to take your Game Boy away. You're like, no, I get it. I promise. You don't have to take it. They're like, no, I have to, because you won't learn your lesson unless I really take this and you really don't have it and you really feel the pain of your consequences. I think really learning the lessons, not like saying, oh yeah, no, I hear that you should put out a lot of music. No, go do it. Same thing with TikTok. The reason I feel like I'm pretty good at TikTok is because I've made thousands of videos, or not thousands, but maybe like 1,000 videos, right? I'd say 90% of them are failures on paper. Like if you just look at the numbers to my followers, they're not successful. But success really comes in small moments after gathering the data and the map that is failure, telling you where to go. So I'm really thankful that I've failed so much. And I think it's a really important part of the journey is to lean into trying and failing, because then you are the little kid who got his Game Boy taken away. And when you get kicked in the face and you really feel it, like for real, and you're like, oh, I hated that release, I hate the way that feels, you're not going to let it happen again.
Right.
And that for me, it was just a really eye-opening experience around, I put out one project, and around the second project, I was like, oh, I think I just need to get better. And the way to get better is to fail faster. There's one last thing on that, is that there's a thing in video game programming called fail fast, find the fun. And it's where video game programmers come up with hundreds of ideas, knowing that most of them will suck, but that 1 to 3 of them will change the whole course of the game. And that's how I feel. Like, go write the songs, go make the TikToks, go fail, because there's going to be like 7 things that you find that are you, that are priceless, that are, you know, like what Jimmy Allen said, what makes you you, that's found in the failure. And I think that's really important. And that's, if anybody could listen to this and be like, hey man, I would like to do something that similar to what you've done, I think that would be my advice, is just fail fast, find the fun.
So is the failing, has that been part of your motivation?
Kind of. I'm not like a huge like fuck the system, like
right,
kind of guy. I just really I have a goal of playing a football stadium. And so to do that, I just think it's getting your numbers up. Like, if I want to be, you know, playing football stadium is a 1% of a 1% dream, right? So to do that, I have to take the actions of the 1% of the 1%, which is putting out more music, making more TikToks, writing more, you know, doing things that are hard, that are sacrifices. And it's not fun always. Failing isn't fun. Even after this conversation, I'm going to go make a TikTok tonight. It's going to bomb. And I'm going to be like, oh, I'm nobody. I suck. I'm not, like, that doesn't go away. But I think I'm motivated more of how fun it could be to live the dream that I have in my brain. That my why and my like big picture in health, at least when I'm in a healthy place, that's what really drives me. And I think the idea that I get to, like, my life mantra is just create things I love with people I love. So I'm trying more and more to like love the process too. Like, can you really enjoy, because like my person doing what it's done is awesome, but I also like really enjoyed writing that song. I really enjoy playing it live. And so if you enjoy the process, then it doesn't really matter the results, because really all we have is process anyway. So I'm trying to make that mental shift. It's a lot harder said than done, but I'm not super motivated by like the haters or anything.
So you mentioned your why. So my question, like, so what do you feel is your purpose?
Yeah, I think it semi revolves around that, like, make things I love with people I love. I think when we authentically find out who we are and authentically tell our stories, it gives others permission to feel less alone and to look themselves in the mirror and go, you know what? Who am I? Why am I here? What is my story? And that's the best gift anyone ever gave me in my life, was they were so authentically themselves, and the stories they told were so incredible and authentic and emotionally charged. And that made me feel things and gave me vocabulary to things that I was feeling but didn't know quite how to say. That feeling has changed my life. And so if I could do that for anybody else, I'd love to. And the way to do that is just to authentically be myself and tell my stories. So my why is to love the process, is to create things I love with people I love. And hopefully that through that, you can give somebody their favorite song to drive to work to. You can give somebody their first dance with my person. You can give somebody, you know, I also do a podcast and I ask really big questions on the podcast. So like, maybe I give somebody the permission to just go, huh, I've never thought of that way. Like, I don't know. I think somewhere within there, maybe you can help somebody and make stuff that you're really proud of.
Yeah, that's you have your head on your shoulders, man. I'm trying to people it's crazy because you get a lot of these artists who don't have their, like, you know, they don't really know what their purpose is. So they have an issue trying to find themselves or trying to find the identity in their brand or in their music. And
can I be honest though?
Yeah.
Back to the failure part, right? Like, it's the only reason I feel pretty confident in who I am is because I tried to be everyone else and it failed. I tried to be a Diet Coke Sam Hunt. I tried to be a Diet Coke, you know, like Luke Bryan. I tried on all the hats, and eventually through failure realized, oh, I just got to be myself. And now I feel pretty confident in who I am.
You just called yourself the Diet Coke. We can't use that because some people like Diet Coke.
Sure, and I get that. A lot of people want to say like Kroger brand.
I always say Dollar General.
Perfect.
Or the Dollar Tree.
And that to me is the highest compliment to a guy like Sam Hunt. Like, you carve out such a lane that eventually people go, oh yeah, it's like Sam Hunt. Oh, that's like Morgan Wallen. Like, oh yeah, it's like Maren Morris. That's like Kane Brown. That's like Jimmy Allen. these people who have such a stamp of authenticity that anyone that tries to tap into it, people go like, yeah, that's kind of like that.
But would that be an insult to the people that you're talking about? Because it's like, I feel like new artists' goal are to be noticed as that person, not notice, this sounds like a Sam Hunt, or this sounds like a Jimmy Allen or a Morgan Wallen.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not the goal for artists, to want to sound like someone that's already made it and be successful.
So that's what I'm saying as well, is I tried to do that and figured out very quickly that like what is going to make me successful is the only thing that nobody else can do, which is my weird, I kind of make this like Justin Timberlake, John Bellion, Keith Urban, Sam Hunt, Frankenstein version of country music, which is different and me and authentic. And even sometimes I'm like, oh, is anybody even going to like this? I still would rather die on my own sword. And I think that has been a part of the success in the last couple of years, is that I've leaned harder on the things that I trust, which is, you know what, it's me. And that's all I can do. And I'd rather tell my stories and be authentic. And that is what I think will help people. So I'm actually agreeing with you. I think a lot of people come to town and the first thing your gut tells you to do, something's on the radio. So I should make what sounds like what's on the radio. But the radio's a year or two behind. And so you have to find out what is on your heart to say, and how are you going to say that, and what is the palette of tools that you're going to use, and the branding and all that stuff, and create a new thing. Because by the time Sam Hunt comes out with the next thing, if you're trying to be Sam Hunt a year ago, you're always behind, versus creating your own lane, finding what makes you, finding what makes you different. And that's something that never changes. Keith Urban, Kenny Chesney, they're still doing that. I think that's the fun part of music. So again, it's through my failure that I feel like I finally found some like relief or peace of like, oh yeah, I think this is what I'm doing.
All right, so we're going to think about this, because obviously it sounds like you already have in your head, you already have the game plan of what you want the outcome of this to be. And I think everyone has that game plan when they become an artist or anything in their career. They have the outcome already played out in their head.
Sure.
5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Man, the year is 2026. I am 31 years old. Man, that's a great question. The ego inside of me wants to answer this question with, I'm going to have 1 billion streams. I'm going to be playing a arena and, all this stuff. But the reality is that like anything can happen. I have a couple really big dreams in my life. I'd love to play a football stadium. So obviously if I can be closer to that goal, that'd make me really happy. I'd love to be like a husband and a dad. I'd love to have a family one day. So I'd also like to, hopefully meet somebody, but I also, that's out of my control. So I'd really like to enjoy the process of living my dreams. I know it sounds cheesy, and I know it sounds like some shit that you crack out of like a fortune cookie, but it's very real. I've really struggled in the past with being too achievey and too goal oriented. And so in 5 years, if I was actively pursuing the dream that I hopefully would still have of having a family and being a good brother and a good son and just a good human being, and growing and learning and changing when I need to, along with creating things I love with people I love, then everything else is going to work itself out. And, however many streams, whatever, that stuff doesn't go on my tombstone. What goes on the obituary is how you treated people and how you made them feel. So over the course of 5 years, hopefully getting better as a human, making cool music, getting better at my craft. I'd love, if you want to like have some ego answers, it's like, I'd love to play massive shows. I'd love to have a song on the radio. Maybe by then I do have a record deal, but again, all that stuff's out of my control, and just trying to love the process of doing it,
I feel that completely. I've learned so much about you. I've learned so much about you, and like, highly impressed by you, and I have gained so much respect. I've heard nothing but good things about you, but I've gained so much respect for you and your mindset on things. Because it's true, like, everything you said is true. You have to enjoy the process of becoming, at the end of the day, successful. Because once you are successful, things not necessarily become easier, but they come quick. They become quicker. They come to you quicker than you anticipated, quicker than if it would be if you weren't successful already.
Right.
The brand deals or anything, the sponsorships, those things come to you quicker than it would if you weren't successful.
Sure.
So I have to agree with you that in enjoying the time getting there, even if it's failures, you got to enjoy it. Even you have to enjoy your failures, because it's another lesson, it's another experience learned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so hard to do.
Yeah,
like to really, when you're in a place of not doing what you want to be doing or failing, to like actually smell the roses and to be like, you know what, this is part of life too. Like, it's all a part of it. It's all a part of the journey. And there's this weird, there's this word in the Bible that doesn't really have a translation to English, but it's like Anake Felucistein. And it's basically roughly translates to the recapitulation of our stories, meaning the bad parts are the good parts. So when we're at dinner and we're telling the story about the camping trip where you went and you had a good time isn't actually a great story. The stories we actually like and that are interesting are like, so I got sick on the road, so then we had to pull over and we were throwing up. Then we had a hole in our tent, so it was raining and we're all laughing and we're talking about our experiences. And so, one of my favorite things that I like to tell myself is to zoom out when I'm stressed, when I'm failing. Like, it feels like the thing in front of you is the only thing. And it's the only part of the story, and it means everything. But in reality, if you can zoom out of the trees and see the forest, it's not that big of a deal. It's a week, it's a day, it's a song, it's a singular breakup, it's a whatever. And if you can really zoom out and see the big picture of things, at least for me, it's super helpful. So part of that's failure. And so I'm just basically retweeting you and saying, I couldn't agree more. Like, to really sit in your failure and be like, all right, this is a part of it. This is how I learn. This is how I grow. Like, if you can become friends with your failure, it's so helpful. And it's hard. I'm still learning that a lot,
Yeah, I am too, and I've been going at this for a long time, but I am too, because I think I'm recently starting to learn that. It's not something you learn overnight. That takes a lot of time and a lot of failures to realize I should probably enjoy this one. It may not happen again.
Yeah, I think I see like slightly older people than me. When bad things would happen, they wouldn't get as stressed. And I was interested by that. And they're like, look, I've seen it before. It's going to happen again. My worrying about it just makes the feeling worse. It's like a rocking chair. You feel like you're moving, but you're not. Anxiety is this thing where you're like clenching and holding. It doesn't matter. The whole thing's running water through our hands, and can you enjoy all of it? That's my challenge to myself. And if I get better at that over the course of 5 years, I'd be super happy.
Have you ever I can't speak English today. Have you ever had to overcome anxiety?
Yeah, man, I still feel pretty anxious. It's actually like manifesting in my body right now. Like, my face is super tight, and my back and my shoulders. And if you can hear anything in this conversation, you probably heard a guy who likes control. I really like the idea that, like, I can use my will and bend the universe and like make shit happen and achieve things. That makes me very happy. But that's not how life works. And so my anxiety comes from a lack of control. And so when I find myself in health and not anxious, a lot of the times, my anxiety usually comes from being in this, but wanting that, being somewhere, but wishing something else was happening, or like the fear of something happening. And so what I'm trying to be a lot better at is like going with the flow. That's why like I get anxious before shows, because my brain tells me, what if you trip and you fall and it's embarrassing and everyone laughs at you? Just like this crazy story. And it's really hard. And anxiety is not, again, not one of those things you come up with a solution to overnight. And a lot of it for me is talking with humans. Like, I'm very extroverted. And so having a couple people, I usually, deem it like my wise counsel, like my parents and my manager and a couple of my friends who I can go to and really have these big conversations with. That's very helpful to me. My day-to-day practices and habits, I think, are really important in that. Like, I feel very anxious when I'm not sleeping well, eating unhealthy, not working out, not plugged into a community, not working on my craft or what I love. So I have a checklist in my phone, and I'll just go through like, okay, I'm anxious. How can I help myself right now? And over the course of a day or two, can I kind of get back into my rhythms? And that can be helpful. But it's something it's a bitch. It really is tough. And especially in an industry where a lot of it's performance based, I get some performance anxiety of like, I am right now, I feel like I have a microscope on me of people being like, what's his next move? Okay, so cool. He has 100 million streams. Could he get to 200 million? Like, that's at least a story I tell myself. And it makes me anxious. But the more that I try to enjoy the process, the more that I lean into failure as a part of it, the more that I realize nobody cares what I'm doing because we're also worried about ourselves.
Right.
Nobody's actually watching me with a microscope because they're all worried somebody's watching them with a microscope. So the word I try to, if I could have some sort of mantra or word, is just grace. I've never been Spencer Crandall before. I've never been an artist before. So the word grace is undeserving love, a love that's like, yeah, life's super hard. Like, just give yourself a little forgiveness and a little mercy and a little grace. And the more that I can like focus on that and harness that energy, the less anxious I feel with some practices and stuff. But it's hard, man. It's a lot.
Yeah, overcoming anxiety it's no joke. It is no joke. I mean, that's something I think there should be like a blanket um for people in the music industry, because it's in medical field as well. It is tough dealing with a lot of things that we go through in the industry. It's a dog eat dog world, but it's also survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
You know, um, and it brings on a lot of mental issues, a lot of mental stress comes into play in this industry. What's been your biggest sacrifice, man?
Um, that's a great question. I really like that question. Um, what comes to mind is, if I'm being honest, sometimes it's fun. I sometimes think I sacrifice. I actually don't drink. I haven't drank in like 4 years. Um, I've been sober for a while, and so I it's hard for me to blow off steam. It's hard for me to um, feel like I'm like doing something that feels crazy and wild and free, because I work so hard on this thing, and that's why I'm as far as I am. And so I'm very grateful for the sacrifice I've made. But sometimes in unhealth specifically, I get to a point where I'm like, what is the point of all this if I'm not, back to process, right? Like, if I'm not at least eating some ice cream or playing some spike ball or hanging out with some friends or just dicking around and listening to music just for the fun of it, then even if you get to the top, the tippy top, but there's nobody on the side of the stage to hang out with, it's not going to matter. So I try to be pretty intentional of building in some fun and some time where like music isn't the priority. Music isn't life. Life is worth living because of things like music, but it is not my whole life. So I think that's a sacrifice I've made. I don't know if it's the right call. I'm 26, and so I think with some time, like, my priorities can adjust, and we'll see. But I do really love what I do. I think sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and sometimes the sacrifice feels like I could probably just go like on some more drives or camping or fish more, like just have a Saturday where I'm not making a TikTok or I'm not, playing a show or whatever. That's probably good for me. I could use some more of that.
Can't we all? Don't we all?
That's part of the like grind and the hustle culture that I think I subscribe to, and I'm slowly finding isn't as helpful as I thought it was. of like, yeah, it's cool to do great things, but you have to be happy doing that. So building in enough space and balance in my life that it doesn't feel like I'm sacrificing everything. It feels like, oh yeah, maybe I don't golf as much as I'd like to, but I still golf.
How hard is that though? Like, how hard is it for you to make this time, especially with everything picking up and building up right now? How hard is that for you?
It's really hard. Let's put it this way. I can always convince myself that there's work to be done. So I have like a 28,000 person text list through my music. And on that text list, I want to respond to everyone, to make them feel special, to tell them about the show information, to hear their story about them using my person for their engagement. If I did that, just the social media alone, I could wake up at 5 a.m., do social media, go to bed at 1 a.m., and wake up and do it every day. And there would still be this plate of social media to consume every day. And so I have to really be okay with, I would rather play a stadium 5 or 6 or 10 years later, but enjoyed the process of getting there. So the words that I really work on are patience and grace. Patiently working hard and diligently, but knowing that things have to grow and not trying to control things and smush them into my reality, and giving myself a ton of grace that, sometimes I do stay up till 1 a.m. and answer texts. That's okay. That's part of life. Sometimes I fuck off and play golf the whole weekend. I didn't do any work, and my manager's like, hey, we missed out on an opportunity because you were dicking around. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I have to do that. So I really try to just trust my gut and not overly judge myself when I make decisions,
Wow. Well, this has been another episode, because this has been actually one of the best episodes I've ever had.
I really enjoyed this, and you're a great interviewer. I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. This has been great. This is another episode of Smoking Section. Please go follow Spencer Crandall on everything: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, if you haven't already. And follow us everywhere. Smoking Section Podcast everywhere except for Twitter. Twitter is Smoking X Section. That's a whole fight right now that I'm trying to have. But go review us, everything. Go listen to it, stream it, and review us all on iTunes. Spencer, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
So, all right, cool. Let me stop this.